Hello crypto boys and ghouls, and welcome back to the channel Tales from the Cryptomancer, where we feature content on play to earn games on the blockchain such as Splinterlands. And in today's video I wanted to propose two potential answers to the age-old question: how many true human players exist in Splinterlands? Now, I know this is a controversial topic, and I guess spoiler alert, I don't have the answer to this question, but I'm going to propose two ways that we could possibly deduce this answer, and I'll leave it up to you to decide which one might be more accurate. So let's take a look at the Peak Monsters dashboard as an example here. And we can see here data that probably we're familiar with. The daily active players here coming in yesterday on April 29th at 409,570. Now, we don't know how many of those are bots versus how many of those are humans. That's kind of the question that everyone is curious about for one reason or another in the community. And I did a video recently talking about what happens if the bots exit, and there's a lot of them exiting the ecosystem potentially if rank rewards don't prove to be cost efficient to run anymore. And there was just also a recent video around collection power in the game and what it might mean for the average number of players in the game as well. Well, what we can do here is, if we look at the daily active users here on the Peak Monsters dashboard, what's interesting, and I don't think a lot of people have talked about this, but it's interesting to look at the daily average battles played in a given day, because one thing that we do know is that a bot can play 24/7, right? It'll just keep playing until, well, the bot's instructed to not play because of ECR. So we know that the bots can play frequently, often, and pretty much all day long. So they can definitely play more battles than your average human player can. So we can do some interesting backwards math here. It's pretty straightforward and simple, right? We can take the number of battles yesterday on April 29th, and we can divide it by the daily active users that also occurred on April 29th, and see how many average games the average user is playing. And if we were to see a very high number there, let's say the number came in at over 100 battles per player, we could assume there'd be a large proportion of bots versus humans, because we could probably safely assume that most humans aren't playing 100 games of Splinterlands in a day, as an example. So let's do the math and see what it tells us. So I pull out my handy dandy calculator here, and we go to the numbers. It was 10.654 million battles were played yesterday. We'll put the exact figure in there. We're going to divide the number of battles that happened yesterday divided by the active players, which is 409,570, and let's see what number we get. All right, so we're getting 26 average battles per daily active user. And honestly, if you're a player in Splinterlands, 26 games per day is about taking your ECR down from 100% to 75%, roughly speaking. So that's definitely very achievable. So we could say, based on this data at a very basic level, that the number of daily active users being human could be potentially 409,570, because I think we'd all agree that if you're a dedicated player of the game, you play 26 battles, and if you're a bot, you could definitely play more than that. So it's definitely, maybe from this number perspective, not unreasonable to think a majority of the players in our game are actually human, and maybe there's not that many bots. So that's an interesting data point. And I want to maybe take the devil's advocate perspective and show you some additional data points that maybe show a different story. So if I go to this website here, this website is Cards Unchained, and this is the website that tracks the daily matches in Gods Unchained, as well as the daily active users for Gods Unchained. And Gods Unchained has done a lot of cracking down on bots, and so their ecosystem is, generally speaking, not very bot heavy. In theory, there definitely were bots previously in the game, and I think they've done a pretty good effort to crack down on those. But let's take a look at this data, and bear with me as I walk through this, because there is a correlation here to Splinterlands that I want to bring us back to. So if we pull up this chart here, what it shows us are the number of unique matches and the unique players per day. The red line is actually the unique players, and it uses the left-hand column or the scale here. So we can see that there were, yesterday in Gods Unchained, 15,282 unique players in Gods Unchained. And we can see that the number of matches yesterday was 100,600. So roughly, they're probably playing about 6 to 7 matches per player on average here in Gods Unchained, and that's reasonable as well, because the matches in Gods Unchained take quite a bit longer than in Splinterlands. You can see this kind of pattern where it goes up and down, because on the weekends is when most players in Gods Unchained play the game, and yesterday was Thursday, right? Or I guess yesterday was Friday, so we may not have that accurate number, but let's just say Gods Unchained here peaks, and they have 19,282 players last weekend. So for a round number, let's just say Gods Unchained has 20,000 daily active users, which is obviously a lot less than what we saw on Peak Monster's dashboard for Splinterlands, where we have 400,000 daily active users in Splinterlands. So the difference there is about, well, I mean, it's probably 200x, right? 400,000 daily active players in Splinterlands versus, let's say, 20,000 in Gods Unchained. Sorry, bad math on my part. It's a 20x factor there. So 20 times as many players in Splinterlands and Gods Unchained based on the Peak Monsters to Gods Unchained or Cards Unchained data here. So let's just take that 20x factor and go over and expand that to social media / content creation. If I go into Gods Unchained right now, and it's early in the morning on a Friday night / Saturday morning, and right now if we look at this, Gods Unchained has 65 viewers watching Gods Unchained content, and on Twitch they have 14,000 followers. Now if we compare that to Splinterlands right now, if we look at Splinterlands, Splinterlands has 46 viewers and 3,000 followers. Now if we look at this, this Gold Member Arcade, I think this is kind of static. This 9 viewers I think is just parked here. I don't think they're live right now. So let's say it's roughly 37 viewers in Splinterlands. So from a viewer perspective, Gods Unchained has twice as many active viewers as Splinterlands has, and actually has almost 5 times as many followers as Splinterlands has on Twitch right now. And again, that doesn't match up with the daily active user numbers we just saw, with Gods Unchained having only 20,000 daily active users. If they have 20,000 daily active users, well, 14,000 of them have joined Twitch in some form or fashion and followed the channel here. Whereas in Splinterlands, if we had 400,000 players, only 3,000 are actually looking for content on Twitch for Splinterlands. But Twitch is just one channel of consumption of content for the game. We can also look at YouTube, and I would throw this out here as possibly a comparison. So many of us are familiar with Dwayne Cunningham, so Infidel 1258 here in Splinterlands. Definitely one of the most popular content creators on YouTube, for sure. There are others that might have more viewers, but I think Dwayne has a lot of members and followers. And you can see here that Dwayne has over 6,000 subscribers to his channel on YouTube with, again, if we look at Peak Monsters, a 400,000 daily active users. Now if we go to a Gods Unchained content creator that's fairly popular, that would be Copper Pitch here. And Copper Pitch has almost 11,000 subscribers, 10.8 thousand subscribers for Gods Unchained. He pretty much only does Gods Unchained content. And again, that's almost twice as many subscribers as Dwayne. And again, the numbers don't quite match up from a content creation perspective. If Gods Unchained players have 20,000 daily active users and Copper Pitch on his dedicated channel has almost 11,000 subscribers, that's almost a very similar match to the number of subscribers on YouTube as the number of followers for the Gods Unchained channel, 11,000 to 14,000 roughly. And here on Splinterlands, we have roughly 6,000 YouTube followers and 3,000 Twitch followers. So again, if the Gods Unchained game has literally 20 times less number of players than Splinterlands, why is it that their content creation on YouTube and Twitch is so much higher than Splinterlands? I'm not sure the answer to that question, but it is something that is food for thought. So if we were to, let's say, do a linear calculation, if, let's say, the difference between active viewers at any given time on Gods Unchained's channel versus Splinterlands' channel is half, and the YouTube content following is half as well, you could surmise that Gods Unchained has twice as many daily active human players than Splinterlands, which, if you did the math, that would mean Splinterlands has 10,000 true human daily active players. So just a couple other things to note is I don't run a bot, so I don't know what the most efficient number of battles to run per hour or per day is for a bot. I think you would probably, if you were a bot owner and you had multiple accounts, you would probably want to find a sweet spot to maximize your DEC earnings, because, well, that's what bots do, is they just print DEC for you for free, basically, for that $10 spellbook. They can also get daily quests for sure and climb up the ranks, but the main purpose is probably to get that DEC. So one of the popular bots that I know is out there runs a free API. I think it's like $1 a month basically to get access to it per account, and that allows you to run a maximum of 30 battles per hour if you just floored the thing in the free API version. And that would obviously deplete your ECR very quickly if you did that. But let's just do the math here. 30 battles per hour on a free API bot, 24 hours in a day. That means that bot account could run 720 battles maximum per day on that account. And obviously the ECR would be pretty much at zero if you did that. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that you ran the bot and you wanted to maybe burn your ECR down to, 50% or so. So maybe you're running the bot every 10 minutes a battle. So that would be 6 times per hour times 24 hours. You'd be running 144 battles a day on a bot account if you ran a battle every 10 minutes. And again, if you times that by, let's say, 144 battles times, let's say, 100,000 bots in the ecosystem, that would mean we would be, just from a bot perspective, running over 14 million daily active battles just from 100,000 bots running a battle once every 10 minutes. and that doesn't account for the human player perspective. And we already can see here that we're only running 10 million battles per day. So if the bot numbers, again, were one battle every 10 minutes and we had 100,000 bots, that doesn't make the math work. So it's hard to say really how many bots there are or what the optimal setting to run bots is. If the optimal setting to running bots is to run your bots basically 26 battles a day and keep your ECR at 75% and then grow it back to 100 basically. Yeah, I mean, of the 400,000, the Splinterlands company may not be able to tell which is a bot player and which is a human player, because in reality, maybe the optimal play for both of them is the same. So yeah, probably maybe no way for them to tell strictly on the data. So I know this video doesn't maybe answer the question of how many bots or how many people exist in the game. Maybe we'll find more of that information out soon with the new ranked reward system coming online. But I do think there is an interesting discrepancy again between some of the daily active users that were reporting in peak monsters at 400,000 and the social media content followers and subscribers for Splinterlands. I don't know what to make of it. It would definitely be an interesting conversation to have with some beers with chatter, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Do we have 10,000 human players or 400,000 human players in Splinterlands? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, keep stacking those stats.
That's entertainment.